surprised how quickly life has sort of moved on from leaving. So yeah, basically January 2020. So it's kind of like just before everything in the world changed.
So you woke up before COVID and you disassociated, or did you get disfellowshipped?
I was still very much mentally in, physically in during the start of COVID. So that January, my sister had a bit of like mental health problems, and she sort of like opened up to me. It sort of got me questioning things. She had basically like not been to meetings for like over a year. So and at that point she said she didn't want to go back at all. So for me, I was like, what? so,
Wow.
so I was very much in kind of like the disgruntled pioneer sort of thing. Like I'd pioneered like when I'd left school. I'd always sort of like wished I'd done a bit like more like higher education and stuff like later on, because I basically stopped pioneering after about 2.5 years. So I did my
Mm-hmm.
Mormon stint, and then and then
Oh my God, yeah.
and then I was just kind of like the one who never quite played ball in the Watchtower comments. I was kind of like always a little bit off left field sort of thing. I was a ministerial servant until I got married. Decided to move back in where my like fiance was, because I'd
Mm-hmm.
sort of moved to another hall, and was I suppose that they were sort of like wanting me to reach out more there. But then I was like, well, no, I'm planning that we can make this work sort of thing in this relationship. So I'm going to move back to my home congregation. But they didn't take too
Mm-hmm.
well to that. So I never actually like reached out after that. I guess I was like one of these brothers that was always kind of like, oh, why isn't he a servant sort of thing? Like every CO visit, it was kind of like, oh, Dan would be made up. And then of course, I think I purposely sort of kept my hours low, like below
Oh, okay.
the 10, the magic 10. But I mean, life is busy anyway, isn't it? To try and get 10 hours every
Right.
month.
But you wasn't going out of your way to do more for
No,
the congregation. You
no,
were like,
because
don't look at me. I don't want to do
yeah,
anything.
it's kind of like our marriage is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me for the last 12 years basically. But then of course this happens. My sister's quite a bit younger than me, so I'm the oldest of four. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
two brothers that are still in. Yeah, so I suppose it's like the older brother syndrome. I want to protect my sister. It was like after that assembly thing on the shunning, wasn't it? There's that
Mm-hmm.
awful shunning video. I don't know if you remember at the convention,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of thought to myself, well, if I was to do that to my sister when she's like, she could be suicidal. You don't know, do you? And you're gonna just ignore her phone call, which was what the video was telling you to do. So yeah, that was a wake up
Right.
back then.
And you
But
wasn't gonna
then,
do
like,
that. You was gonna be by her side.
yeah, I wasn't going to shun her. I was surprised she went to me, to be honest, because like we'd never been that close. There's like 14 years between us. So all of a sudden she pours her heart out to me, and it's like, wow, this I didn't realize this was going on, because she was like a super zealous pioneer, like telling us
Mm-hmm.
oh, we should be doing more, telling me to stop taking the mickey out of
Wow.
circuit overseers and stuff. But yeah, so to see this happen to her, it was like completely out of the blue. And then, of course, we go into lockdown in March in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's doing Zoom, and yeah, I think it was about like 5 months later that I basically started seriously questioning things. I'd had quite a background in like alternative medicine. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like noticed years ago that Google had like basically started censoring like different
Mm-hmm.
like alternative medicine websites. Like the traffic just went to zero, and I basically had to type in the sites that I was going to. You couldn't basically search for them. You had to type in the actual address. So that was
Mm-hmm.
in like 2017. So I already knew there was like something going on.
I think there is a correlation, because the governing body and everybody was like really pushing it on their members, and all of us kind of like, if you disagreed with it, they would treat you a little different, even in the world and even among the Jehovah's Witnesses. And there was like a lot of judging going on. Oh, you didn't take the vaccine or whatever. And it's supposed to be a personal choice, and I respect it. But there is a correlation, because everybody was doing their research and making their own decision.
Well, the thing is as well, what got me so annoyed was like there was this elder in our hall, and he basically, I don't know if it was on his back or whether it was actually a letter, but he basically said, well, we are going to go further than like the government. So of course for me, I was sort of like waking up to things may not be quite what they're saying, because like when you look at it from a perspective of like science, because they say that the first thing was to sort of label anyone who didn't go along with it as anti-science, but I love science, and like the science behind masks, for instance, and the test and everything. Like you could go on YouTube and see the guy who invented the test. I think it's still up there, and he basically says it doesn't test for viruses. So so I mean, I was starting to wake up to all this and thinking, like, what is going on? Jehovah's organization was doing completely the opposite of what I thought was the proper thing. I mean, you've got to be. I mean, I thought you've got to be careful if there's a virus, take normal precautions, but to go further than the government, which was telling you to put a mask on that didn't do anything. I actually left before the whole like pushing the vaccine thing, because at that point I was kind of like, I'm not having anything to do with this. I think it was in December I came across Crisis of Conscience.
You read that book, huh?
Yeah, so I just completely soaked that up. It was all at the same sort of time. So it wasn't long after that I sort of got into trouble with the elders, I guess, because my brother had sort of had this bit of a scare, and like we were all looking for him. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, he hasn't gone and done something stupid, has he? So at this point, I'd read like Christian Freedom by Franz as well, and like I suppose accepted the basic like Christian message, which is which to me, like my understanding of it is basically that rather than like how the witnesses say that there's an anointed class, your Bible says that as many as believed becomes the sons of God in John 1. So basically, John 1 basically destroys the whole Watchtower theology, if you like, because you've got the Word was God, and then you've got the Word was made flesh. And then in verse 10, it talks about, or 12, that as many as believed becomes the Son of God. So I started to see the Watchtower as like a cancerous growth that was sort of getting in the way of people's relationship and having Jesus as a mediator, because of course you start digging into how the anointed mediate for the great crowd, and like where does that come from?
Exactly. So you woke up, right? So after you read those books, you kind of woke up to the lies.
I woke up straight away as a Christian. I think I had like half an hour where I sort of considered atheism, because I think I got to research about the flood, but then I found groups that sort of had like credible information about how the flood could be true. I wouldn't say, I mean, obviously I'm Church of England now, so you wouldn't say that I was fundamentalist in that sense, but like I do believe you have to have a fundamental foundation to your faith. So I don't deny the flood or like the actual literal Genesis account. So in that sense, you could say I was fundamentalist. I don't like it when it starts going into people saying, "Oh, you're not saved because you don't believe just
Right.
how I believe. Because you do get that. You do get that kind of thing. Yeah, so I woke up as a Christian, and then I think, well, this could be the thing that helps my brother. So of course I share with him what I've been learning, but then he completely freaks out, and like these 3 elders turn up, like looking for him as well, and then they sort of sense what's going on, and they start bothering me, and of course I'm going off on one like because you basically feel you've been lied to your whole life. So I'm basically giving them the full crisis of conscience. It's all very fresh for me at this point, and of course you're running on adrenaline, aren't you? That you suddenly realise, oh, they've caught me already. I've only been out like a month. I sort of cooled off and sort of like explained to the elders for like a few months that I just had a bit of a funny turn sort of thing, and like went back into like the Pimo stage just out of convenience. Because obviously my wife isn't on board with this. She's part of a huge family as well, so like she would lose everything. So at this point, I'm just literally trying to preserve my marriage, try and smooth things out, because obviously you haven't prepared for life on the outside, have you? Like your whole life, it's been based on this one little society. So it's quite scary. I never thought that my family would shun me, because I suppose this is the same with all of us. That I was so close with my mum and stuff like that. You think no, that they will get it. They will get this because they became witnesses as adults. So I was thinking, oh, they'll all be so pleased to find out these things that I've been learning. But of course, you can't. The trouble is, you just can't wake people up. This is the conclusion I come to now. Like, you've got your views, I've got my views, but we're probably never going to change each other's mind on certain things. And I think you just got to be happy with that, and just be able to share your story. It may affect someone, it may not. And like the evidence that I've like looked into may not be convincing to someone else. So I think you only get this as the years sort of roll on, like the exjw community as well. You're not shunned in the community for being a Christian, but it is different, isn't it? Like you get a lot of negativity. Do you get people who are sort of like you can be either way? Because obviously I did have like a bit of a religious experience, like when I first sort of approached like the gospel and that kind of thing, but I was quite affected by these sermons of Greg Banson. He sort of like looked at how philosophy could be combined with Christianity. He did this really good debate with this atheist, but his thing was kind of like you could. I think it's called the transcendental argument for like belief in God, I suppose, which is quite hard to get your head around. Kind of just sort of solidified for me that I need to be convincing to someone else. I need to go beyond just like, oh, you can have this experience. The thing is, I can't prove if that was something special or if that was just like the emotions of learning something that I didn't know my whole life. Like I can't prove that to someone else. So it's not that I want to deny that happened, but at the same time, I wanted more of like a reasoned faith, and like to be able to defend beliefs against people who have maybe like studied philosophy and they think that certain things prove Christianity false. But when you look at all of the worldview as a whole, come to certain conclusions, like you could say like how can you have like absolutes in an atheist worldview, like mathematics and that kind of thing. At first, it kind of sounds like a bit crazy, because you think, well, everyone can count, but the whole point is, can they account? Because that was basically the conclusion that I got from this debate. So, look, an atheist can balance his checkbook; he can get on with his life. Like only the Christian worldview like allows for the experience that we have. But
right, yeah, I've seen some of those debates, because I was looking into everything, and I was looking at how like there's an argument for everything, and then they use a lot of good points to like prove certain things. But I had to do the same thing. I had to watch videos on a bunch of beliefs and like everybody's point of view, because I was just searching for like, okay, what do I agree with? How I just like navigated back to Christianity.
Because I think debates are the way to go, really, aren't they? Because it just like broadens your like understanding, and the way I think, like at least you gain more respect for the other position, don't you? Like you're looking into Orthodoxy, and obviously I looked into a lot of like debates between Catholics and Orthodox, and
Me too.
I actually started driving to an Orthodox church at one day. I was feeling quite down. I was so gutted because it was closed at the time. I didn't look up the opening times, and because like the nearest Orthodox church for me is, I think it's about 40 minutes away. Yeah, I was really interested in Orthodoxy, actually, and I like listened to a lot of like Jay Dyer debates. I don't know if you've seen any. I think I heard you mention on your channel the Sam Shamoan.
I don't even know, like at the top of my head, I don't know, but I follow a lot of people on Twitter, and they have lots of conversations, lots of YouTube channels that I have been watching. I mean, I looked into Catholics too, so I was watching every debate that is on the internet, because I was like, I want to find the original church. I want to find, what was the beginning, and where did all of these schisms come from, and that's when I just started looking at like Eastern Orthodoxy and Catholics and the Roman Catholics. Like there's so many different kinds, but it was that religious trauma that didn't allow me to like go in person. So after I got over that, then I was able to go in person. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because you did your videos and it was like you jumped from exjw straight back into Christianity. And I was like, whoa, what's the process here? Like, what happened? I want you to describe how did you get over the trauma, the religious trauma, and now you're in a choir? Like, what?
Oh yeah. So probably another story for another day, maybe. But just very quickly, getting through the church doors was a huge thing for me, because I was just walking up like every Saturday to go and get our sourdough, and I kept walking past this church and just sort of like I was just sort of like curious about it. Like this was obviously once I was out and I was just like listening to sermons and stuff. And the trouble is, you listen to these quite fundamentalist sermons, and it can give you the impression that like the churches are evil as well, which is kind of like something as JWs we have the sensitivity to, don't we? We kind of like hearing that. I was like, yes, the churches are bad. And obviously, I was researching Catholics, Orthodox, Anglicans, and I came across like the Prayer Book Society, which was kind of like the official book for the Church of England is still like the 1662 prayer book. You would never know that, like from the kind of media coverage that they get. But I basically read that, and I thought, well, wow, like if things haven't changed officially since then I can go with that. So I just like wrote a little email to the like the local reverend and just said I'm planning to come, and obviously I just did it with the intention of just seeing what it's like, but I basically just kept going. I could agree with the creed that it's practically the same, isn't it, for Orthodox, Catholics, and Anglicans. There might be one line that's changed, but I thought I can go along with that. It's a church I can walk to, like another family, doesn't it, in a way, because you've been kicked out of your community. And I just wanted a community that wasn't going to shun anyone. I'm pretty sure I could leave like a Methodist or like another group, because the Methodists and the Baptists, they come to our church and we have like a mixed service like twice a year anyway. So at the time I was probably more Baptist leaning, but obviously I did a lot of research in the last couple of years, and it probably sort of like made me kind of like probably more ecumenical and just kind of like find the common denominator between all of them, because I mean like my priest like goes to like Orthodox retreats and stuff. so he'll actually go and hang out with the Orthodox priests and stuff, and which I think it's quite nice that we try and break down like these barriers between everyone, because I listen into a lot of like Orthodox sermons, there was this one guy who was kind of like, we always try and encourage you to always keep your bridges between your former groups. Like, don't completely burn all your bridges. So, well, you can't do that with the witnesses, see, because they burn your bridge for you. But
exactly.
But yeah, but I love that. So I think even if I was to change to a like maybe Orthodox or Catholic at some point, or go the other way, I think I would want to try and stay on peaceable terms with like the people that I've got to know and everything, and like because obviously there are issues in the Church of England, and I wouldn't say I fully submit to the leadership. I never submitted to the elders either. I suppose it's just personality, really, isn't it? Like I think probably anti-authoritarian. So the choir, that was quite a story, because I'd only got baptized in November and confirmed, and then in January I had my first reading.
Nice.
I was absolutely petrified. I've always been fairly confident reading the Kingdom Hall, but like because it's a new place, and I think that same Sunday there was no choir, because I think it was the first one of the year, and they had a week off, and I was so sad. Like I really enjoyed the music, and I was like, wow, I don't want to miss any of the services just for the music almost. And then that very Sunday, like, they just asked me if you wanted to like give it a go. So I've always been musical, played guitar, piano and stuff like that, but like singing was the one thing that I was never really comfortable doing. But I thought I'd just give it a go, because obviously I have, like, on my YouTube channel, I'd kind of put like these old songs that I say that I'd never like sung, but obviously I'd recorded songs, but I would just never do it in public. We all have barriers, don't we, that we just never crossed, I suppose.
Or they asked you and then you said, yeah, I want to join.
They asked me, and I just thought, well, I'll give it a go. I don't even know if I can sing in tune, to be honest. But like the choir guys said, yeah, you can sing. I mean, I think I sing pretty badly, to be honest, but they're very patient with me, because they eventually sort of like got me to like try and learn to sing tenor. It's like a completely new world sort of thing. So that did take quite a while to sort of feeling like I was making any progress on that. But yeah, I'm just probably starting to get a bit more confident. Other tenor was away for a few weeks on holiday this last month, so I was kind of having to do all the solos myself. So yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a trial by fire, but kind of feel like you're growing each week. An excuse for me to like get fully immersed in something that I enjoy, and kind of blends like theology, music, kind of feel like a ministry in itself, because like music definitely touches people's heart on a different level, doesn't it? So you get quite a variety of like hymns from different backgrounds. You kind of think, well, even if I don't completely agree with everything, there's enough that I agree with to sort of like be like, I suppose, like sing with conviction, because I think that makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Like if you're actually transporting the message. I often say that, like, are you a good storyteller? So I've loved it, and it's one of the things you'd never dream that you like if you told yourself a few years ago, oh, you'll be singing in the choir. That's yeah, not really. Yeah, I would never believe you, but
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you were born and raised a Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah. So my parents became witnesses like a year before I was born. So I was.
Oh wow.
So I got quite a strict upbringing, because they were trying to do everything right at that time. But then I had like another brother and sister that are like 10 years younger, and they were a lot more lenient at that point. So we were all,
wow.
Like the two of us that were older were always like, "Oh, you're being too soft on them."
Right. So you were a Jehovah's Witness all your life, basically up until 2020, and now we're in 2024, and you got baptized in November last year, right?
Yeah.
To the Church of England. So is that Catholic?
Yeah. Anglo-Catholic, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow. So that was less than 3 or 4 years. You completely converted to another religion. You're participating in the choir, and this is like you said, you love it. You actually want to participate. You love it. you have a community now, you have a church life now, like complete change. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think as well, it's kind of like a survival mechanism, because obviously things it's so hard, isn't it, when you're cut out of your family. We were a really close family, and like we were kind of like the model Jehovah's Witness family as well, because like my dad's an elder.
Wow.
Although I was probably the black sheep of the family anyway,
Yeah.
but I really am now.
Definitely, because that is such a flip. Like, that's how I was wondering, like, how do we move forward with our faith? Because I never lost faith. I just lost, like, I wanted to detangle the governing body and the organization from believing in Jehovah and Jesus. But you can't do that. You can't take away the governing body and still believe in Jehovah and Jesus. So they kind of just shun you because you reject the governing body. But I'm like, I still feel Christian. I want to go to a church. I want to worship. I want to learn. And I believe. I've never lost faith. But now it's like, where is the right place to go and worship? And that's when I looked into Orthodoxy and like the church and Jesus, and I learned about like the Trinity and stuff like that. So those were like little doctrines that were really hard to adopt. But once I read the Bible, once I like understood where they were coming from and watching the debates and everything, I started to feel like, yeah, I do believe that Jesus is God and that he came, in the flesh, but he was God in the flesh, in human form, to teach us so that we could understand. And then after he died, like basically everything that happened, I believe that it happened. Now I want to go to the church and I want to worship correctly. And that's when I started going to church.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I think like you can just sort of like focus on that church of the first 1,000 years, can't you? And like because I mean I'm still not completely convinced by either Catholic or Orthodox on who has the true authority claim. But for me, like if we just focus on that first 1,000 years, because I think they talk about the witnesses believing like the black hole apostasy, don't they? I don't know if you've ever heard of that expression, but like
I haven't.
Basically Christianity just went into a black hole from the 1st century until whenever the next cult sort of begins. And it always sort of cuts out the base of that first church that was established, and like the creeds, because the creeds are beautiful, aren't they? I think, was it the first 7 creeds the Orthodox accept? So
honestly, I'm still learning about that. I have to look that up. Yeah.
But that's exactly the same as, well, some in the Church of England. We're kind of like the higher church, which accepts all the creeds, and like we're not averse to Mary and stuff like that. Because that was another thing. When I first left, the vicar sort of said, like, why don't you try and go to the Open University? So I did that last year, and it sort of had this lovely chapter on Mary and kind of like all the different views. So you sort of dug into a bit of what the Catholics teach and a bit of what the Orthodox teach. So I sort of came to the conclusion that yes, that's in the creed. She is the Theotokos in the sense that she was the God-bearer. And whichever way you look at that, that takes away a barrier that a lot of witnesses would have, I think, because they would think, oh, they worship Mary. But when you actually study it and go past the prejudice, you can sort of see that there's more to it. And there's like all these Dormition sort of stories and traditions that have been handed on. And you think, well, there may be something to it. And you can't completely like reject it once you say that, yes, the word was made flesh. That's kind of like the dividing line, isn't it? And you sort of realize that those, I think it was like the 5th, like the Council of Ephesus or something like that, that decided that Mary was the God-bearer or the Theotokos. So yeah, it transports you right into Orthodoxy, doesn't it? Whether that's an Orthodox version of like the Church of England's an odd odd case really, because like we're not fully in communion with the Orthodox or the Catholics, but we kind of view ourselves as being part of a branch of those two.
Right.
Yeah. I think I'm probably gonna have to go
Okay.
now, but it's been lovely talking to you, and we'll have to do this again at some point.
Yeah. Whenever you want to like give the full, story of how you completely, like the conversion story. The conversion story is deep.
There's more to the story. Yeah. We'll have to work out some questions and stuff.
It's just talking about Christianity, basically, like Christianity after leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they're not Christian. So it's like, how do we find Christianity?
For anyone who's listening, just keep listening to debates and just come to your own conclusion on things, because like people are bound, like we're all at different stages of the journey, aren't we? And like some things are going to you're going to have a lot of prejudice against, because that's what I found. Like you just keep I keep reading, like, was it Acts 10, where it talks about like Peter seeing this vision come down from heaven, and he's saying all these things are unclean. I won't go anywhere near that. But when you apply that to every prejudice that you have, it sort of like unlocks like a bigger worldview, and you can sort of see how big Christianity is. And yes, we have differences, but there's a lot of good in the traditions that have been passed down. So yeah, just keep exploring, basically.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this with me, because this is exactly how I struggled leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, because there was nobody really out here talking about that, because most of them are atheists or agnostic, and those are not the type of people that you can actually move on and go back to Christianity. They're gonna be like, oh, that's fake, or oh, that's not real. And it's like there's no safe space to talk about Christianity. So I'm like, well, if nobody's doing it, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to find other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that are willing to talk about their conversions back to Christianity, because I didn't feel like there was anybody out here doing it. So I'm glad that you did this with me.
Well, it's funny as well, because when I did like the Open University, I've only done like 1 year with them, but there was one Catholic and one Orthodox, like on our chat sort of thing, and one Anglican. So yes, we're outnumbered even in secular society, obviously, but obviously, like you can study higher education, and it can strengthen your faith. That's what I found. That it just sort of broadened my view of the world. So, whereas the JWs paint it as, if you go into higher education, they'll convince you that of evolution and stuff like that. It's not really the case. It's just like it encourages you to go to primary sources, go to debates, go to different scholars, and see, like, can that be challenged with another scholar? So that's all it does. Just it's really the critical thinking they don't like in cults, because once you start asking the difficult questions, it starts breaking apart that weak authority structure. So we will have to continue this another day.